All right, let's dive in. Today, we're unpacking a massive shift in how we build everything online. We're talking about Terraform and this idea of moving away from endlessly clicking buttons to actually writing code for our infrastructure. It's a game changer, so let's get right to it.
So if you're in tech, you're dealing with the cloud, right? You've got servers, databases, networks. It's this huge, sprawling digital beast. And the big question is always, how on earth do you manage all of that complexity without pulling your hair out?
Well, it really just boils down to two fundamental approaches. There's the way we used to do things, the old way, and then there's the modern, smart, code-driven way that's pretty much taken over the industry.
Let's start by looking back at that old way, something folks in the industry call ClickOps. And yeah, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's you logged into the AWS or Azure console, manually clicking through menus and wizards to set everything up. I mean, just think about this for a second. Have you ever actually tried to clone a production server perfectly? You're clicking through dozens, maybe hundreds of settings, checking every box, typing in every value, just praying you didn't forget something tiny.
Let's be honest, it's pretty much impossible to get it right every single time. It's so fragile. One little misclick, one forgotten setting, and now your staging environment is different from production. And that little difference, that's a recipe for disaster.
And this whole manual approach is just riddled with problems. First off, it's painfully slow. It's also super error-prone. In fact, studies have shown that simple misconfiguration is the #1 cause of production defects. You get inconsistent environments, and you have no real audit trail. Who changed that firewall rule? When? Why? Good luck figuring that out.
Okay, so out of that chaos came a truly revolutionary idea, a completely new way of thinking about our systems. Infrastructure as code. You'll hear it called IAC for short.
So, what is it? Simply put, instead of clicking around in a web browser, you define every piece of your infrastructure, your servers, your networks, your databases, in configuration files. You write code that describes what you want, and that's it. You start treating your infrastructure exactly like you treat your application code. And, this is a huge mental shift. Infrastructure stops being this weird, mystical art form that only a few people know how to do. It becomes a real engineering discipline, with all the rigor and best practices that we've been using to build software for decades. This means we can suddenly apply all these incredible software engineering principles. We can use Git to version control every single change. We can require peer reviews before anything goes to production. We can build reusable, modular components, and we can write automated tests to make sure our infrastructure is solid before we deploy.
Now, a great idea is one thing, but you need a tool to make it happen. And in the world of infrastructure as code, one tool has really emerged as the de facto standard, the universal language for infrastructure. And that tool is Terraform.
Here's what makes Terraform so special. See, all the big cloud providers have their own IAC tools, but they're designed to lock you into their platform. Terraform's absolute superpower is that it's cloud agnostic. You can learn one tool, one language, and use it to manage your stuff on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, you name it.
So how does it pull this off? It's through this brilliant idea that some people call API as code. You don't have to learn the specific, complicated API for every single cloud provider.
Instead, you just write what you want in one simple, human-readable language called HCL. Then, Terraform acts like your own personal expert translator. It takes your HCL, figures out the exact API calls needed for AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, and does all that complicated heavy lifting for you. So, what's it actually like to use Terraform day to day? Well, it all comes down to this really elegant and powerful 3-step workflow: code, plan, and apply. It's super straightforward. First, you write the code describing the infrastructure you want. Then, and this is the magic part, you run the plan command. Terraform shows you a preview of exactly what it's going to do. And finally, if you like what you see in the plan, you run apply, and Terraform goes and builds it.
Let's just pause on that plan step, because honestly, it's Terraform's greatest superpower. It's like having a crystal ball. Before you commit to anything, Terraform tells you, hey, I'm about to create one new server, modify this security group, and delete that old database. There are no more scary surprises.
And when you're happy with that plan, the apply step is what makes it real. Terraform goes to work making all those API calls in the background, translating your simple lines of code into actual running infrastructure out there in the cloud.
So why do we go through all this trouble? What's the big payoff here? Well, it's not an exaggeration to say it's a full-blown revolution in how we build and manage technology.
This quote just nails it. By treating our infrastructure as code, we get all the things that were totally impossible with the old ClickOps way. Our infrastructure is now versioned, it's perfectly reproducible, it's reviewable by our teammates, and it's completely automated. The benefits are just massive. You gain incredible speed, you can spin up a whole new environment in minutes, not days. Collaboration becomes easy because everything is a pull request in Git. You get perfect reproducibility, so no more, well, it worked on my machine. And you can automate the entire lifecycle of your infrastructure.
And that automation unlocks this incredible concept of infrastructure pipelines. Just like we have CI/CD pipelines to build and test our application code, we can now have pipelines that build, test, and deploy our infrastructure code. Making a change to a network becomes as safe and routine as shipping a small bug fix.
In this as-code philosophy, it isn't just stopping at infrastructure. It's such a powerful idea that it's expanding into all sorts of new areas. We're now seeing things like observability as code, where even your monitoring dashboards and alerts are all defined in code, versioned right alongside everything else. And that really brings us to the final thought-provoking question. If your infrastructure is code, and your security policies are code, and your monitoring is code, what's left that you can't automate? The potential is just staggering. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.